Greetings, everyone. It's great to be with you. Thanks so much for joining us again today. I much appreciate all that you do by the way of service and learning. Today, our presentation today is entitled Sacred Geometry and subtitled The Realization of the Platonic Solids. The weekly studies and exercises of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC cover the ancient Greek philosophers. In this spirit, we note that the teachings of the Pythagoreans, Socrates, and Plato have a remarkable transmission through Plato's account in the Timaeus. We'll consider one of the key features of that text, namely the Platonic solids and their expression of the sacred through geometry and mathematics. To illustrate the point, we'll explore how these special structures assist us to go deeper into knowledge of the microcosm and the macrocosm. To begin, I'll share some slides with you. You'll now see before you a slide indicating the law of vibration. In the Rosicrucian tradition, we talk about the cosmic keyboard. If you could imagine yourself before a keyboard at a piano, but it extending greatly to higher and higher octaves, higher and higher range of vibrations to encompass all phenomena throughout the cosmos. This is something in a way you could think of the mastery of life as being a great pianist and learn how to play the different octaves of the cosmic keyboard. In this regard, I'm going to show you a slide that appeared earlier when we had a teleconference on the law of vibration, which is available on Rosicrucian TV, and we'll give you resources for that source later. You'll notice in the upper left, we see on a stand a plate, and sometimes it's done in glass or in metal, and there's a particulate matter sprinkled over that plate. It could be salt or sand or sugar. And the violin bow is drawn down the side, and the fingers and the thumb may be placed on the sides to dampen the vibrations. And when you've scattered the particulate matter, such as sand, over an even way over the plate, but when you draw the violin bow down and it causes a sound and vibrates the plate, you find that various geometric patterns form like those on the right. And this is a way they can connect auditory phenomena with visual phenomena, which is important in our subject matter. And you'll see a great range of different designs that can be had by where and how the bow is being drawn and where the damping has occurred by the placement of the fingers. You can see that the plate itself is vibrating up and down like valleys and hills. And where the node points in between going down into the valley and up into the hill, we're going back and forth. That's where the sand will tend to go and form these wondrous geometric patterns. In a similar fashion, you can think of all vibrations in the universe causing different geometric forms, not only in 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions. And that's a clue to when we think about what we're going to refer to as the Platonic solids, and I'll give more description of them as we move later on into the presentation. You see before you here a remarkable work by the master mystic and artist, engineer, scientist Leonardo da Vinci. It's an illustration for the Renaissance mathematician Luca Pacioli's book on mathematics, where Leonardo depicted various Platonic solids and other solid objects. Now, he's drawn using the law of suggestion what is flat on paper, but it's suggesting a 3-dimensional object. Indeed, the dodecahedron that has regular pentagons, so 5-sided faces, 12 of them all fit nicely together. We'll talk some more about. Interestingly, with the 12-sided faces, made it a model of the cosmos in Plato's account in the Timaeus. And 12 is associated with the 12 signs of the zodiac, for example, the 12 months. And in this sense, It was associated with the cosmos. What I'd like to show you more about this very beautiful shape with lots of forms of symmetry to it is that if you think of it as being projected onto the two dimensions or on the plane, you'll see on the right here that this pentagonal face here has 5 pentagons around it. And then this pentagon then joins with another pentagon, form another series of a pentagon with other five pentagons around, making the 12 pentagonal faces. Hence the name dodecahedron, as you see written here, the V being used for the U, the D and the dec being 12 in number. Also in this regard, I want to show you a rotating dodecahedron that will give you a sense of its, even more of its three-dimensionality. Let's go in very close on the drawing. Now we'll use the Master Mystic's suggestion through this. I invite you now that we'll begin our period of meditation. And just as we use in a Rosicrucian Order vowel sounds, and we also have various sacred diagrams in the Rosicrucian tradition that are similar to, or can be called essentially types of mandalas, can be contemplated. So can the Platonic solids, such as the dodecahedron, be contemplated like we're doing right now. It's true we're seeing it on projected on a two-dimensional surface, but it's so well drawn, you can see and sense, picture it as the three-dimensional object, which it truly is. I invite you to just contemplate and meditate and absorb this particular shape that's been used traditionally as a model of the cosmos, but also as the quintessence, fundamental essence back of the 4 principles, or often some will say the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. So it had that dual role of this fundamental essence, but also a model of the cosmos. You notice the various symmetries of this shape. Pentagonal face gets repeated 12 times. Each vertex looks the same. Each edge is positioned in the same way. So you see there's multiple symmetries that we deeply respond to. Its structure is very encapsulating. This is a sense of wholeness. A sense of strength and containment, but in a freeing and uplifting way. Just as the violin bows being drawn along, causing the sand to form different geometric patterns, we can also go back in the opposite direction. A geometric pattern, sound, or other vibrations on the cosmic keyboard, from one octave to the other, one corresponding note, with a higher and higher note on in the octaves. You may wish at times just to let your focus, let it go. and experience the dodecahedron in a very dynamic way. You may even wish to let your mind enter into its center inside of it. I think you'll find in meditating on this shape, it has a very strong sense of completeness and wholeness. It suggests the wholeness of our whole being. Now we'll continue our period of meditation by considering the dodecahedron further and its cosmic relationship. You'll see beside the drawing we've just been contemplating a depiction of the universe as a series of dodecahedrons. Indeed, the renowned mathematician and physicist Henri Poincaré, active during the later part of the 19th century and early 20th century, postulated that the universe in a curved and multiply repeating dodecahedral structure. Intriguingly, there's been some evidence of that over the past 100 years. I placed in the center of the dodecahedrons spiraling galaxy like the Milky Way galaxy where we live. Let's zoom in on this. You'll see the structure repeating itself. It gives a sense of the infinite that will soon rise up into from the finite plane to the infinite plane. From self-consciousness to cosmic consciousness, consciousness of the cosmic. In this way, Henri Poincaré described the geometry of the universe as finite yet unbounded. You traveled far enough, you'd come back where you came from, like traveling on a sphere or the spheroid of the Earth. You'll see the dodecahedron repeated again and again and again, drawing us into an awareness of the infinite. And we continue our meditation. I invite you now to close your eyes. Be in tune with the dodecahedron and its enriching and wholesome vibrations. We'll apply the instructions of the booklet Liber 777 now. I'll give you resources on later on in the presentation. You can say the following prayer and invocation together. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities, mind and body. And I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now let us launch ourselves into the universe as a great dodecahedron, repeating itself, rising up from our home or office, up over our building, up over our neighborhood, using all our visual capacity, our imagination, and our psychic faculties, rising higher and higher enjoying the ascent over our local geographic area, or our town or city. Now even up over our county and province or state, seeing the landforms, the water systems below, the great system and order of the weather systems rising up higher and higher over our great nation or country now, taking an increasingly expansive view as we rise up higher and higher. Seeing our continent now, even our hemisphere, sensing the spherical geometry of the earth. We see the earth as a great spheroid, beautiful blue jewel, rotating about its axis. A satellite, the moon, revolving about the earth. As we look up, we see the great elliptical orbits, the planets of our solar system, demonstrated by the traditional Rosicrucian, Sir Isaac Newton. Revolving about the great fiery ball of the sun, our local star. We continue to rise up higher and higher beyond the solar system, enjoying the exhilaration of the ascent. Past myriad stars and stellar phenomena, quasars, the pulsars, black holes helping balance the universe, the rogue planets, the comets, the asteroids, the nebulae, continue to travel, sensing the great vibrations of the universe, the harmony of the spheres. Let us pass right out from the great arm of the Milky Way galaxy where we dwell. Look back on the great spiraling galaxy that is our home, and look up and see other galaxies and stars connected by the great cosmic web, going faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light as we transcend space and time, moving from the finite plane to the infinite plane. As we go higher and higher into the cosmos, we go deeper and deeper in ourselves, applying the law of correspondence, sensing the increasing presence of the divine within, our true guide in nature. Past myriad stars and clusters of stars, even clusters of stars, astronomers and astrophysicists refer to as superclusters. We take in the great system and order of the cosmos. And faster and faster. The great sea of vibration. At a certain point, you may sense that the universe is revolving about a great cosmic axis. Sense this stupendous harmony and action. The rotating universe. But its great axis, just as the earth rotates about its axis. In a way, our lives rotate about our axis, our spine. At a certain point, you may sense the midpoint of the great cosmic axis of the universe. Speed towards that midpoint. And when you reach it, slow up and just dwell there at the center of the cosmos, at the center of your being, taking in the awe-inspiring, harmonious action. great rotation of the universe. Great structure of one dodecahedron after another. Balancing and coordinating the structure of the universe. Spoken of by the mystic and philosopher Plato. The universe is a great dodecahedron in structure and operation. I invite you now to apply further the instructions of the booklet Liber 777. You may wish to visualize your personal celestial sanctum. Maybe the great structure of the universe all around you, the temple of the divine. Maybe an inspiring temple on earth. That may have applied the structure of the Platonic solids in its architectural form. Or maybe an inspiring place in nature back on earth. Sacred meadow or a high hill with its expansive view. A seashore looking out onto the great expanse of the waters. The waves lapping in, suggestive of the cosmic keyboard. Fill in the sights and sounds, the psychic impression, the overall spiritual import. May wish to picture other seekers, students of mysticism, the Rosicrucian Order, with us on this conference call. The invisible and visible masters, Supreme Lodge and Grand Lodge officers of the Rosicrucians, may be conducting a sacred convocation. The heights of your personal celestial sanctum. Feel the exhilaration of filling in your and visualizing your celestial sanctum. Just as we're exhilarated and rising up to it, this heights, the center of the universe. Once you've filled in, visualized your personal celestial sanctum, I invite you to release it by saying, so mote it be. Then dwell in peace profound and apply the law of silence. Receptive to any impressions that may come to you. Just continue to let go. Surrender to the divine within, our true guide in nature. Let us continue to dwell at one with the One, united with the cosmic. It's the universal intelligence back of the cosmos. Their mind fills the cosmos. Now, in this state of cosmic attunement, I invite us to undertake a further spiritual operation of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. Let us join in the work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC to radiate love and well-being to all those who petition for guidance and healing. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those who petition the late bodies of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all those you know who are in need of guidance and healing. And finally, let us radiate love and well-being to all sentient beings throughout the cosmos who are in need of guidance and healing. Just let the radiations of love and well-being flow like a great floodlight throughout the cosmos, reaching all in need, moving at a tremendous speed. Radiating out from you. At a certain point, I think you'll find you no longer need to make a conscious effort. Radiations continue from deep within to the divine within, and even speed up, and we know we're reaching those in need. When that happens, just surrender and be receptive to the flow. Soon we'll formally close this period of sending metaphysical aid, but we'll continue meditation a while longer. Through this work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace, I invite you to say with me, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So mote it be. And let's continue to dwell well longer at the center of our being, the center of the cosmos, in cosmic attunement. Soon we'll begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum. And at this time, I wish to express through the law of gratitude our thankfulness and gratitude to all those who have taught us well, all those who have loved us well, all those who have sacrificed well on our behalf. Through the law of gratitude, we come all the more into application of the law of cosmic attunement, feel uplifted, ennobled, and enriched as they assisted us. So we are called to assist others through the law of service. Now recharged, rested, reintegrated, let us take this cosmic attunement, experience of cosmic consciousness as a way of life, not only during our formal periods of meditation, but throughout the day and night, fulfilling our mission in life, staying on track on the mystical path. Let us begin our descent at a tremendous speed, way beyond the speed of light, past the myriad super clusters of galaxies, galaxies, great cosmic web connecting the galaxies and planets, stars, past nebula, myriad stars, planets, asteroids, comets, the wondrous harmony of the spheres, the music of the spheres, passing galaxy after galaxy. We see in the distance the great spiraling arms of our home, the Milky Way galaxy. As we plunge into the great arm where we dwell, past the myriad stars and nebula, stellar phenomena, enjoying the exhilaration of the descent. We see in the distance the solar system, planets and their orbits, falling ellipses, great fiery ball of the sun, the beautiful blue jewel of the earth, the temple of the earth. As we return to the hemisphere where we left off, the continent, our great nation or country, our province or state, our county, our local geographic area, our town or city, our neighborhood, and invite you to stay with me before we close this period of meditation. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum. So mote it be as we descend on our office or home, the room where we left off and however we're situated, lying down or seated, feeling remade, reintegrated, rejuvenated, harmonized, all the more ready for the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC, now and always. When you're ready, you may wish to stretch and open your eyes, and we'll continue the presentation. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate all the more the great journey that we just made, symbolized and depicted before us. We continue to consider Platonic solids, spoken of by Plato, but later would appear in descriptions in Euclid's Elements, various editions down through the centuries. You'll see before you now the 5 Platonic solids. They are unique. They are convex, they're regular, polyhedra. That is, they have hydra, faces from the Greek, but poly, that they have the repeated polygonal shapes, in particular equilateral triangle, the regular equal-sided pentagon, and the square of the equilateral quadrilateral forms the cube in the upper right. In the upper left that you're looking at, we see the tetrahedron. In the center, we see the octahedron. Your lower left, we see the dodecahedron we've been speaking about. And to the right, we see the icosahedron, the icos for Greek, because it has the 20 equilateral triangle faces. Now, each of these, as Plato relates to us in earlier associated traditions, the Pythagoreans that Plato was transmitting, they're associated with different traditional elements. The Rosicrucians call principles, but you may hear them as the four elements. We see the tetrahedron, its pointedness was associated with fire. We see the earth and its square foundation stability associated with the cube or the hexahedron. We saw, as we mentioned earlier, the dodecahedron with its 12-sided faces associated with the great octaves, the each having its 12 constituent parts repeated again and again, doubling its frequency and vibration, studied by the Pythagoreans as monochord. But we also have the octahedron that's associated with the air, and the isosahedron with the water element. Now, these four elements or four principles, they have a symbolic meaning as well. With fire, of course, is traditionally related to the transmutation process, air with the vital life force, and so forth. At the Rosicrucian Regional Cultural Center in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, we constructed a sacred diagram and labyrinth based on the five Platonic solids and the earth, air, fire, and water, and the quintessence. You'll see the four principles around here on the octagonal geometry, only a labyrinth that traditionally at Reims Cathedral in France. At the center, there's the dodecahedron. I've drawn this in a computerized form for you to see more closely. A structure where we have a great rose at the center, suggests the rose cross design. And as you pass through the passages here of the various wandering path of the labyrinth, one comes one by one to the four principles, the earth, air, fire, and water, and ultimately the quintessence, to be at the center of the cosmos, at the center of your being, the center of the sacred diagram. It's interesting in this regard that not only Henri Poincaré was inspired by the Platonic solids, but also the renowned physicist of the 20th century, Werner Heisenberg. As a young university student, he read Plato's Timaeus. Many of those physicists of the early 20th century, 19th century, they were fairly familiar with Latin and Greek. And he was deeply impressed by the description that Plato gave in Timaeus, that the demiurge, this divine being that created the universe as a mathematical act, and from that made a very deep impression on Werner Heisenberg. It stayed with him when he was formulating the quantum mechanics and the fundamental structure, the microscopic level of the universe. In a certain sense, mathematics are getting increasingly applied in the sciences, not only in physics, we've had from time immemorial, but increasingly with the Rosicrucian students, Sir Isaac Newton. Werner Heisenberg would assist in that, as well as a Rosicrucian student. Einstein through the special and general relativity, but also biology through the RNA and DNA and other means. Study diseases, but also in chemistry and its periodic table development and its various molecular structures that we'll talk a bit about soon. I remember one of my professors, who was an applied mathematician, I asked him about an area he studied very deeply in had taught quantum mechanics, what did he think was fundamentally there in existence? What were the fundamental constituents and how it's constructed the universe? And he said symmetry. And that's very conducive because the five Platonic solids are fundamentally about symmetries. In this regard, I'll show you some elements before we conclude our works that have applied the five Platonic solids. Here we see this celebrated work by the mystic and artist Salvador Dali. This is the Sacrament of the Last Supper. And you'll notice the dodecahedron structure here. It encompasses the universe. But we see the master Yeshua here with the 12 disciples, one for each of the 12 octagonal faces of the dodecahedron. And we see both a microcosm of teaching the universe, but also the upper room, the temple, working with the dodecahedron structure, but also the cosmos. And just as we ascended into the cosmos, you see here the suggestion of the crucifixion, the great purgation that we did to be able to realize the Christ consciousness or the cosmic consciousness. The hand pointed upward, further reminding us that our true nature is in the divine within. You can see the breaking of the bread, the wine, the constituent elements of a ritual to symbolize our Christ nature or our divine nature. Similar to this, I want to show you some other ways that five Platonic solids can always be on the lookout for. In a way, our very being and nature is constructed through them. You'll see in the upper left before you a octahedron. But on what's on the right, what's called a truncated octahedron. And intriguingly, as we note, the octahedron, it's got the 8 vertices, the 12 edges, and the 8 faces, hence the name 8 faces or octahedron, is made up of equilateral triangles. And if you cut it in half here, you'll have what many often think of as a pyramid. Now, if we truncate it in a particular way, we can transform it into a truncated octahedron. If we divide its sides here by 3 on each of its faces, and then we shrink it back in to form a square here, and do the same here, do that on each vertex, what results is this truncated octahedron, which now works with the square and hexagons. So we've transformed from triangles to square and hexagons through a relatively simple transformation or truncation. Now, in this regard, spoke of Leonardo da Vinci, the master mystic and artist, and his great interest in the Platonic solids, particularly through the mathematician Luca Pacioli, who expounded on the golden section, pi proportion, and various geometric forms used in the construction of nature. And this greatly fascinated and assisted Leonardo in his artwork. You'll notice below here his drawings, that is Leonardo's drawings of the truncated octahedron, done in a skeletal form, but then also done in a solid filled-in form. What's interesting about that is, as we go about our daily business and get impressions coming from within, let us always be on lookout for the great lessons of life, the great principles of life. For example, I know many of you go for a walk daily. I do that as well. And I'm always on the lookout for the Platonic solids and the deeper underlying structure of the universe, the different ways the Rosicrucian laws and principles are applied. You'll notice on the right here, it's actually a children's playscape. And I recently came upon one in my walks, and I immediately ascended into the cosmic because I saw before me the Platonic solids that have been done for children to play in. This is called the Space Ball by a company in Germany. but you'll see it matches. It has the hexagonal faces, and it has the square faces as well that are conjoined at their squares, so that children learn to work with the microcosm and hence can mirror the macrocosm in their understanding in their education. Here's drawn a computer-aided design diagram or CAD diagram of its essential structure. Maybe easier for you to see the truncated octahedrons that pack together nicely. Here's a view from the top, and you see its mandala or sacred diagram like quality with the octagonal structure here. In this way, when we're going about our affairs, we'll see various laws and principles, intimations of the sacred, hence the term sacred geometry. In this regard, I want to show you some more structures before we finish up that partake of the Platonic solids. I've placed them in the center here. But you know, for example, your very DNA, its structure we describe through polyhedra, that is the solids with polygonal faces. And many of them are based here taken from a scholarly article that describe how the Platonic solids are involved with how the structure of our very DNA, including the dodecahedron, the isosahedron, the hexahedron, the cube, and more. On the right, you'll see a radiolora skeleton, which is a type of plankton or zooplankton that actually has the geometry of an isosahedron. So again, we see throughout creation and various life forms. In the lower left, we'll see pyrite, which takes the form of a cube or a hexahedron. Many crystals and minerals follow the Platonic solids or truncated forms of it. On the right, many viruses take the form of the icosahedron because it's very efficient for its structure with the 20 edges. I should say the 30 edges and the 20 faces. And you can see they may be floating in our bloodstream. In a way, our body is full of the Platonic solids in various subtle ways, and the cosmos have them all about us. To continue in this spirit, let's consider in the upper left here what's called the Buckminster fullerene. It's C60. It's a truncated icosahedron, so it has a carbon atom at its 60 vertices. And just like we talked about the truncated octahedron, you can similarly truncate the isosahedron. You get the 60 vertices, and you'll notice the various pentagonal faces united with hexagonal faces. Some of you may have been at the Great Exposition, Expo 1967, Expo 67 in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, or maybe gone later to the biosphere that's there now. There's a great geodesic dome, or maybe in your hometown you've seen the geodesic domes. They're actually related to the icosahedron because the icosahedron, what's taken there, its triangular faces are subdivided into many equilateral triangles. And then it's projected out into a sphere to give this very strong, very light, very efficient shape that Buckminster Fuller, American of the 20th century, designed. And this Buckminster fullerene molecule that's named after him shortly after he passed through transition is also affectionately nicknamed the buckyball. In the lower left here, I know many of you are very knowledgeable of speakers and acoustics and may know about the omnidirectional speaker, and a very optimal design for measurement in acoustics is to have those speakers placed on the 12 faces of a dodecahedron as depicted here. I know many of you are fans of soccer, or many refer to as football. The soccer ball is actually a truncated isosahedron projected onto a sphere, and hence you'll see the hexagonal or six-sided polygons regular with the pentagon. Continuing in this fashion, Let me show you some other everyday instances of how the sacred geometry of the universe informs us. In the lower left, you may have constructed various Platonic solids and dipped them into a foam solution. I remember doing this as a child. Here with the hexahedron or the cube, you'll see the film will actually form a cube within it. And beautifully, this actually gives the three-dimensional shadow of a four-dimensional hypercube. But again, you see the cube is worked, the film is working to minimize the surface area. And nature does this. It's rapid universal intelligence back of it. Over on the right here is an eclipse sculpture, a large sculpture in San Francisco by Charles O. Perry. And he applied the dodecahedron in this large sculpture's design of many bars of aluminum and gold. You notice some of the pentagonal shapes, the faces of a dodecahedron in it, and then applying curvature, some of the curvature that was applied to the geodesic dome, but in a different way. And in the lower left, in my walks, I pass by sometimes playscapes in the parks, and I see various applications of Platonic solids. For example, here's a play climbers. On the left, you'll find 3 conjoined dodecahedrons. Those little shapes on the faces are actually catch points where the children can climb up the shape. In a way, they're climbing on the cosmos. And you can see the way that different Platonic solids conjoin with each other. On the right, another park I go by in my walk is again that space ball in a smaller form of it. But again, you have the truncated octahedrons that suggest the deeper underlying geometry of the universe and of creation that we apply when we visualize. Just like we visualize from the heights of the celestial sanctum, we're setting up geometric patterns for manifestation and realization. And we'll come back to where we earlier on, the Platonic solids. The astronomer Kepler was very interested in Platonic solids, and he, like Henri Poincaré and Plato, set up a model of the universe, applying them one inside the other. But also associated with him and his description of the Platonic solids is this image here with the earth, air, fire, and water, and the quintessence and the cosmos. In a way, we were at the center of the cosmos, at the center of the dodecahedron, when we ascended to the heights of the celestial sanctum. And before I make a concluding statement, I'll ask Karen to upload in the chat for you a PDF document with the resources. Rather than paste them in on this occasion, simply upload them. You can download the PDF. It'll have the links in there for you if you want to follow up further on this topic, in addition to the weekly Rosicrucian lessons that we've applied in various ways today. I'll give you a moment to get your resources if you wish them. And I'll say by way of conclusion again that the weekly studies of the Rosicrucian and its exercise of the Rosicrucian Order, AMORC, cover the ancient Greek philosophers. In this spirit, we note that the teachings of the Pythagoreans, Socrates, and Plato have a remarkable transition through Plato's account in the Timaeus. And we've considered one of the key features of that text, namely the Platonic solids and their expression of the sacred through geometry and mathematics. And to illustrate that point, we've explored how these special structures assist us to go deeper into knowledge of the microcosm and the macrocosm, while all is about us and within us in unity. In this way, we've continued to explore over 40 Rosicrucian laws and principles and their creative application for self-mastery, harmonious living, and service. Thank you, everyone.